fixed route service in a lot of ways.
Can you take wheelchairs and walkers on the fixed ride?
Absolutely.
Yeah, on the fixed and the dial ride.
Yep.
Yep. Both are accessible. People living in poverty, you know, that's a tough one to track. And then renters, obviously, this is a, you know, again, census data, only so useful when you're trying to build a route.
Yeah. But those are all, factors you base them around. So we know, kind of demographically, not necessarily down to the individual, but what kind of indicators mean that someone's more or less likely to use transit. And like we were talking about earlier, the worst case scenario is you put all the money into putting out a third route and no one's there. And so you want to measure all of those different things that make people more or less likely, and you end up with this kind of one catch-all category called transit propensity. How likely is someone to ride transit? Generally, people with mobility challenges, or people below the poverty line. People renting are more likely than people, homeowners, things like that. So you end up, and the nice thing is, at the moment, SMART's got a route through just about every one of the sections where you have the highest transit propensity, which is great. That means that we can look around a little bit to figure out, we have no service through here, we have no service out here, and this block, we didn't design these graphics, but the consultant did, so work with us. It kind of gets in the way, but there is a lot of extra ground to cover, and how can we do that with one more route? If you could put one more route on the map of Moscow somewhere, where does that go? And this is all the different data we use to do that. So this is actually kind of just a
Yeah, this actually talks about the campus revision, and we can kind of go back to that. And so this red line represents what the new route would be, and this is a draft. This has a temporary route. And again, we are not announcing that the third route is happening. If we get the funding, this is what we would be this is what we would be looking at. So it'd cut through Maybell Street. It would connect Joseph Street, White Avenue, at the roundabout. Come down, it would mirror in front of East Side Marketplace, and then up Indian Hills. Then it would loop down the Alice Street connector, so it would take advantage of the Grove. So being able to get
Public health is down here as well. There's a few others.
Yeah.
A few different car shops. We have people, that want to drop their cars off in the morning, have dial, I come and pick them up,
Right.
things like that.
So where's the wellness center? I mean,
The wellness center is
it's right out there.
right down
Yeah.
Right
here.
down that way.
Mhm.
yeah,
But didn't you say you had a bus that went out that
The
way?
dial ride goes there fairly frequently.
yeah.
Yeah, and so the nice thing about this route is we started, like I said, we had designed this route during the 2018 expansion process. So we went to the Transportation Commission and we spent, I think it was about 6 weeks. They set aside basically a sub-workshop committee for us. And we would meet in the evenings and go over different things we could do, making sure we were on priority plow routes or, being on the greenway or, things like that. The Alice connection here never existed. So before that happened, you would have had to drive all the way out around here, which at the time was kind of what we had to tell people. So this is one of those dated kind of graphics. This doesn't matter anymore. But remember when we were looking at planned development, all of those apartments out here, the Alturas Business Park is out here, people trying to get to work. Things like that. And so in kind of one fell swoop, we can catch a lot of it. Obviously, it's still not 100% coverage. We know there's people up here that need it, or that 20-minute loop is virtually impossible as soon as you
Right.
touch the Conestoga neighborhood there.
Right.
I don't know if any of you have been there. I work in transit and I get lost there all the time. Getting up, and they're big buses. So, trying to stay on the streets big enough. And when you take all those factors into account, it kind of narrows the field down. And so I think it's a pretty strong contender. Now, there might be a few more adjustments and things like that need to be made, but like I said, the nice thing, we had a ton of public engagement and public comments and open houses and work with the commission and just little tweaks, moving up 2 blocks to get away from this intersection further, or all those kinds of things. Right?
You don't go to the Arboretum.
Tyler uses that street to get away from 3rd Street traffic all the time. It's a trade secret that we're letting you in on.
Right.
This person is perfect for getting around campus. Then you want to jump backward?
Yeah, so that's kind of the idea behind the fixed route, and like we said, that you know, just because you design a route, doesn't mean that it's gonna stay that way forever, and that's kind of the beauty of what we do. We had a huge issue this last fall dealing with the construction on Line Street, with the
Steam tunnels.
the steam tunnel issue, yeah. So as that was happening, we actually just changed the route and came up University Avenue here, dropped off right in front of the I-Sub. We started dropping on Rayburn Street right outside of Ag Science, and it was a hit. It was so popular that, I mean, why would we stop doing that? So we just incorporated that into the initial route. Instead of coming down to Sixth on the first route, we go up the newly reformed one-ways, if you all are familiar with that. Up the hill, up in front of the I-Sub, and then down, and then we meet back up where the old route used to go. So that's a great example of just how sometimes you try something, it's a big hit, and you go with it, so.
And completely off the record, that's something I wanted to try for a long time, but until we had that intersection closure, there was no way the university was gonna let me put a bus in front of the Commons, and I said, it's gonna be really popular. That's completely off the
That
record.
is fun.
But, yeah, so, I mean, but then, yeah, once the street opens up, it's a, please don't leave. We have shelters down there, so we can't leave completely, but yeah, maybe every other run.
That's great.
Right, so this is a great slide, and I think it speaks to how SMART tries to be nimble and try to adapt our service to what the community's needs are, because that really is the most important thing, is the people that ride the bus, getting people around. Yeah,
This may not happen in a big city, but I know that if you're between bus stops, it's like on 7th Street down to the East Side Mall, if you just stand on a corner and wave your hand, they'll pick you up. And
Right.
I don't think you get that in the city, so.
I know it happens, I choose not to. Yeah, no, that's all right, I know it happens.
no, from riding for a few days, I'm trying, you might see me out if you're in the bus, and you might see me out, I'm trying to get a lot of rides in right now. I've seen some things that the drivers, one of the great things is the drivers have those relationships, and they know who the riders are, and, you know, while we certainly want to get everybody around on time, that's why, you know, I mean, for safety reasons, we try to have everybody at the bus stop, but the drivers have those relationships, and you can't police everything.
Absolutely not, there are some things not worth.
And that's one thing I'll say about our drivers, is we have an incredibly great drive crew. I mean, they are there, they care about the riders, they want to help out, they know people's names. I have just been absolutely impressed with our drivers and the way that they interact with the public thus far. It's just been fantastic, so.
Can people still bring bicycles?
Yep.
There's a.
Yep, all the fixed routes have bike racks on the front of them. It's 2 positions, first come, first served. Similar to there are 2 wheelchair positions on each of the fixed route buses.
And companion animals?
Yes, service animals are allowed on the bus. As well.
Service animals.
Yeah, service animals.
Yeah, service animals. Right, service animals, that is correct. Which, yes, is an ongoing discussion, but,
That's a challenge.
but, yeah, on the topic of the drivers, we've got an absolutely great staff. Drivers, 3 of them have been driving these routes since they were instituted in Moscow. Got a driver that just celebrated his 21st year with SMART, been driving fixed route, and another that's 16 years in. So there's a pretty great group. And when you have those, you know, experienced drivers, you know, when they train a new driver to have those relationships and things like that, I think it really helps. It really results in a pretty outstanding staff.
What if you have a medical emergency?
We don't do anything same day, and it's just not something we have the capacity for. And also, because it's a shared ride, depending on the medical emergency, or if you're sick or something like that, when we don't turn people down because they're sick, but it is a little tough to put them on the same, especially on dial riders with people that, you know, might have compromised immune systems.
Well, like with the coronavirus issues now.
That'll be something that we're just playing by ear as close as we can. The buses are all disinfected on a regular basis. Trying to find replacement stock is really difficult. You might have noticed right now, but But yeah, so the buses and things like that, the surfaces are all regularly cleaned, disinfected, in between runs, things like that. All the handrails, common contact points, things like that. But
So you haven't been put in a position where you've had to say, I'm sorry, you can't ride, but you appear to be very ill?
it has not come up yet. And every transit agency in the state, or by extension the Northwest, is scrambling to kind of figure out what happens there.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there are pandemic response plans and things
Yeah.
like that, but, you know, how do you adapt them on the fly and
Yeah,
and
it's
things
very
like that, so,
challenging.
yeah. That will certainly be something that Smart Faces and, you know, coming on. Yeah. So it's kind of a whirlwind tour of
Yeah.
Smart, yeah, and some route design and things like that, but.
Yeah, we'd love to.
Great. I was just curious about what the timeline is for the new route.
Yep, so we will find out probably in the next 6 weeks or so, whether or not we were awarded the funding. And then if so, that funding would take effect October 1st. So we would have all of our staffing stuff ready to go, the infrastructure out, and then October 1st. Generally, we shoot for the first Monday after that, whatever that'll be, just so the week runs, there's not a service change in the week. We would jump right in.
Right now, the routes, both, the two east and west routes, both leave at the same time. Would the new route leave in between those times?
No.
Or leave at the same, three
It
buses?
would leave at the same time. The nice thing is, like I was saying, you have to draw a route that can get there in 20 minutes.
Right.
Even cutting out through all the way out to Joseph and White and all of that, it's times out to about 19 and a half minutes on average. So very happy with that. It was a route I wanted to build, and until we went out and timed it a few times, because, you know, you have to drive and get a feel for what traffic's like, or, you know, pedestrians, or we go out and stop the buses we're driving to simulate, you know, having to stop for a wheelchair lift. And it runs right inside the time window, so it'll leave at the same time, come back at the same time, all that, so it was very handy. If you've seen our schedule, it's already, every transit schedule's a little confusing. We try to keep ours as clean as we can. That third route will need a redesign.
When does the new schedule come out? Because the schedules that are on the buses right now don't have that alternate route through campus.
Yes, so there are new schedules that have recently been printed, like within the last week, that are being distributed. So if you saw an old one on the bus, hopefully it's replaced by now.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think all the buses should have been cleaned out, yeah, for
Okay.
last week. If not, let me know.
Well, you'll have them in the transit center, won't you? I mean.
Yeah, absolutely, yep, and they've been distributed throughout town, Chamber of Commerce, quite a few university offices, Quick Care, Rosars, DAC.
Okay.